All right, well, welcome everybody. Glad you're with us this afternoon. I'm Chip Rogers, President and CEO of the American Hotel and Lodging Association. And I want to welcome you to the third in our Forward Thinking series today, Boost Your Happiness, Build Your Team Morale. Boy, I cannot think of a better topic at a better time than this one. Seems like around election time, people always get angry anyway. So I've never known someone who can be happy and angry at the exact same time. So let's all be happy. Elections come and go, and we live in a great world with a lot of wonderful people. So nothing to be too upset about. Look, Forward Thinking is the online continuation of our Forward event, Women Advancing Hospitality. I want to thank all of you for being here. What we really like to showcase is both the diversity and the leadership on this platform. Today is no different, absolutely. And we want you to stay engaged. Just because we're in the middle of a pandemic and just because we're not able to meet in person doesn't mean we can't be engaged. So I want to thank each and every one of you for participating in this. We're also grateful to our sponsors. Look, these are tough times, and not just because of the virus that people are worried about health issues and things like that, but they're financially tough times. And these are the companies that are investing in us, investing in this event, and investing in our industry. So make sure that you're investing in them. What a wonderful group of sponsors, and we thank you for that. We are now more than 6 months into the pandemic, and hopefully we can see some sort of sign out there or light at the end of the tunnel. Some days I see it and some days I don't. But we know especially it has been difficult on women and mothers. They seem to have to juggle more than the rest of us many times, and that can put a lot of strain on daily life. So what we're hoping to do today is have some discussion and look at ways to improve that. And with us today is Tia Graham. She is the founder of Arrive at Happy. She spent nearly 2 decades successfully leading sales, marketing, and public relations efforts at hotels around the world, using her own unique philosophy of driving growth through a culture of engagement and happiness, which is the key here. She'll walk us through some practical strategies today to increase your well-being that are rooted in the science of happiness. We will also have a couple of breakout opportunities today to create your own tactics to bring to the workplace, wherever you may be these days, whether that workplace is in the office, like where I'm sitting today, or outside of the office where I am on most days. Everybody is dealing with a little bit of different workplace today. Also joining us today, of course, is our Forward Advisory Committee Chair, Andrea Foster. Andrea is Senior Vice President of Development at Marcus Hotels and Resorts. She has been an absolute true champion for women in the industry long before we ever came up with Forward back in 2018. She's going to be moderating the questions and answers today and take us through the end of the program. So with that, thanks again for being part of this. And Tia, turning it over to you. It's all yours.
You have a lot of influence over your happiness and over your well-being. I am honored to be with AHLA today. Thank you for the whole team for having me. This is going to be an interactive, inspirational, educational experience. So please be present, put your cell phones away, and imagine we were all at a gorgeous hotel together, overlooking the ocean, and all together in person. And I know that we're going to be together very, very soon. I'm talking here today about how to boost your own personal happiness as well as your team morale. There are a lot of myths and misconceptions around happiness, and there is no person on earth that is happy all the time. Life is a journey of peaks and valleys, of ups and downs, and oh my gosh, 2020 is giving us a lot of valleys. And I know that there are many challenges that you're going through personally, professionally, economically. There are environmental challenges. Chip mentioned the politics that are going on. 2020 is giving us a lot. What I want to inspire you to always remember is that there are choices every single day that you can make to positively affect your life. And for all of the leaders listening, I'm also going to give you some powerful strategies to increase the morale of your team. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. I was born and raised on a little ski area in northern Canada, sort of halfway between Seattle and Alaska. So I like to say I was born into hospitality. I've always been in hospitality. And I chose a career in hotels, in travel, as I've always been obsessed and lived my life for traveling and thought, wow, how amazing to have a career in the hotel industry. There's a picture of me here. This is my first director of sales and marketing job at the Sheraton Kauai Resort. If any of you have been there on beautiful Poipu Beach, it's actually the place where I met my husband, who's also in the hotel industry. And for 14 years, I worked in different locations in the US as well as Turkey. And around 4 years ago, I created my company, Arrive at Happy, because I really wanted to understand how I could help leaders, teams, organizations, and individuals really harness the power of positive psychology to help their life as well as their business, because happiness and success are absolutely connected. These are our two daughters, Audrey and Mackenzie, and they bring me a ton of joy, and they also drive me crazy. For all the parents listening, I hope you can relate to that as well. So I have studied with the Harvard happiness teacher who really made the course popular, have multiple certificates in positive psychology. I went on to study coaching and neuroscience. I went and spent a week in Copenhagen and I got certified as a chief happiness officer to really understand what makes people happy when they're working. And I am amazed at how much incredible information is available. And I'm on a mission, a huge mission, to try and connect this information to as many people as possible. A lot of the clients I work with are travel companies. I just did a talk this morning for a company, Classic Vacations, as the travel industry, of course, needs this inspiration now more than ever. And I think you'd agree the world needs inspiration now more than ever. And although we're in a very, very, very challenging time, I'm optimistic about the future. In every single storm, there's light. Whenever there's darkness, you can still find those silver linings. And I hope I'm going to inspire you to focus on that today and moving forward. So as I mentioned, I spent some time studying with Dr. Tal Ben-Shahar from Harvard. And what I want to start off with is a framework. And this is a very, very powerful framework of well-being. And when I teach people, when I teach leaders how to increase their well-being, how to increase their happiness, I don't teach how to increase pleasure, not the boost that we get when we go on a great vacation or when we're, sitting around with friends enjoying a great glass of wine. What I want to teach you here today is how to increase your resting level of happiness, okay? And yes, genetics does play a part. And yes, our life circumstances, what we do for work, where we live, our family makeup, etc., all does play a part. Yet people underestimate the power and the influence of our choices. So with this model, the Spire model of well-being, I want you to know that in each of these areas, there are proven evidence-based ways to increase your daily well-being, your daily happiness. This isn't about the spikes. This is about ongoing. And of course, it's a journey. I don't know if we ever, maybe the Dalai Lama, he's got there, but everyone else in our regular lives, right? It's a lifelong journey. But we can always make choices to improve our well-being. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you a little bit about this Spire model, and then we're going to go into a breakout to understand and to think about how can this apply to my career? How can this apply to my life? So let's start with the S of Spire. The S stands for spiritual well-being. Now this can mean your religion, if you are religious, but it doesn't have to be. It also can mean feeling like you have meaning and you have purpose in your life. So sometimes when I'm on stages, people will ask me, well, T, how do I know what gives me meaning and purpose? I'm not quite sure. You know, I have this busy life, I have family and work and everything, but I'm not sure, you know, where is meaning coming from? And I'll say to them, well, imagine if you had 6 months to live. Hopefully that doesn't happen to anyone anytime soon, but imagine that you had 6 months to live. What would you miss? What do you love about your life? And when I ask that question, they start saying, well, of course, you know, my family and this part of my work, and the answers come out. What gives us meaning and purpose is really, really personal. You might get meaning and purpose from spending time with your elderly parents. You might get meaning and purpose from doing yoga, or from reading, or from learning, or from playing with your children. You might get a lot of meaning out of cooking. Maybe you get purpose when you are helping at your local animal shelter. The amazing thing about meaningful and purposeful activities, the studies show that we only need an hour of meaningful and purposeful activity in our week, and it creates a beautiful halo effect over the rest of your week. So if you are sitting here thinking, not sure, do I have a lot of meaning and purpose? Something to reflect on, and know that just an hour a week can really have positive effects on your well-being. Moving on to the P, physical well-being. So this is both the physical health of your body as well as the psychological health of your mind. And I'll give you some examples of ways to increase the well-being of both. So sleep is extremely powerful when it comes to how happy we feel. Adults need 7 to 9 hours a night, and no, you cannot wake up, make it up on the weekend. I learned this in my neuroscience. There's no possible way. Every day is a reset. So sleep is really, really powerful. Nutrition, food as medicine. Food makes us feel happy or unhappy, right? So having a diet rich in fruits and vegetables and healthy grains. You know, the blue zones are the 5 places on earth where people live the longest, and they all have a really similar diet. Movement and exercise, another way to help with your physical, the health of your body, stretching, etc. Now let's talk about your mental well-being. So I'll give an example of a way that, you know, can negatively affect it. Studies have shown that if you watch the news on TV right when you wake up in the morning, that you will feel 31% more negative. I choose to stay informed. I read about the news on several different apps, so I stay informed of what's going on in the country and the world, but I don't have the TV on, you know, talking nonstop, as an example. Another is meditation. So studies have shown that if you meditate just 10 minutes a day, it is proven to make you more resilient, calmer, and better able to deal with all of the challenges that are thrown in our way. Also, going out and spending time outside, even just a 15-minute walk, is going to help that mental well-being. Moving on to I, intellectual well-being, one of my favorites. I joke with my husband that I could just be in university for the rest of my life and I'd be happy. So this is learning and growing. For those parents listening, right, or if you have nieces and nephews or grandchildren, kids are sponges. They all day long, they're just learning. They're so happy. They're just learning all the time. And as adults, we are actually the same. We thrive when we're learning and when we're growing. So you can learn by watching TED Talks. You can read books. You can take online courses. You can actually take classes. You can learn from a mentor. There are so many different ways to learn. You can learn Spanish. You can learn public speaking. You can learn your boss's job. You can learn how to start, branding. Think of anything and everything under the sun. Learn how to cook, right? It doesn't matter. What matters is it's interesting to you. You get energy. You would love to be able to learn whatever it is. And then you spend time each week learning. And when we're learning, though, our brain just loves it, okay? Going on to the R, relational well-being. This is the relationship we have with ourselves as well as others. And know that the relationship you have with yourself directly affects the relationship you have with everyone in your personal life and your work. So All of that self-care is wonderful. And prioritizing relationships, the number one predictor of happiness for people around the globe is connected relationships, spending time with people you care about and who care about you. This is why the physical distancing and physical separation of COVID is so difficult, but make sure you schedule those FaceTimes, do the Zooms, send text messages, send little videos, stay connected to the people you care about. And the happiest countries in the world are Finland and Denmark and Norway. They spend so much time each week with their friends and family, so make it a priority. And then E, emotional well-being. So this is both the pleasant emotions like joy and excitement and love and serenity and calm and amusement when you laugh, as well as the painful emotions such as anxiety, fear, anger, guilt, sadness, all of those. There are no positive and negative emotions. There are painful emotions and pleasant emotions. And believe me, those painful emotions are there for a reason. Something's going on in your life. So the last thing you want to do is push them down and ignore them. You know, you want to talk about them. You want to journal about them. They're there to teach you something, and you're strong and you're resilient. You can use them to move forward in your life. So remember this SPIRE acronym and keep it with you, share it with your friends and family. There are a lot of different topics in each area, all with proven ways to increase your well-being now and moving forward. So I'm now going to transition to happy while you're working, okay? And as I mentioned, I went and spent a week in Copenhagen because, so in the United States, about 13% of people say that they're really happy while they're working. In Denmark, about 48% of people say they're really happy while they're working. So I thought, well, I obviously need to go to Denmark and figure out what these, you know, what they're doing. And so I want to share a word that I love as I'm a happiness expert. I'm going to try and pronounce it. Arbejdslad. Okay? This word means work happiness. Unfortunately, we don't have the word in the English language. Maybe I need to invent it. But there's a word out there that literally means work happiness. Imagine that. There's a word in Japan, I don't remember it, but it means death by work. Luckily, we don't have that word in English either. But I want to motivate you to really think about happiness while working, okay? This is you as an individual. So Dr. Annie McGee from Harvard has done some incredible research in studying what can we do as individuals in our career, in our lives to really, really be happy while we're working. And probably the most important one is finding meaning and purpose in our work. And I talked about a little bit prior with the SPIRE in terms of meaning and purpose. It's really, really important. Some people think of their work as a job. Some people think of it as a career. The people who are really happy while working see it as a calling. They see it as, oh, this is what I was meant to do, okay? And it's up to you as an individual to really look for what gives me meaning and purpose. Why do I care about this position? Why do I care about this hotel? Why do I care about, you know, this cluster, this group of properties, for example, right? The lives that you impact and the positive experiences that you give, to really get clear and answer the question, you know, how do you get meaning at work? And think about your own personal values. And if you write down your top 10 values in life, how can you bring those values to life while you're working, okay? The next one is optimism. So optimism is accepting that 2020 is a perfect example, accepting that things are challenging, and you know, there are people who are laid off, there are people who are furloughed, and there are people who are still working with less staff. There's so much going on, of course, at all of the companies. While working, having optimism is about accepting what's going on and being optimistic about the future, being excited about what could happen in Q4, Q1, Q2, being excited about the potential. I just spoke to a woman who has been in operations, and she's thinking in one of the breakouts, she's thinking about potentially going back to school, getting some education, and transitioning into marketing for hotels. That's optimism, okay? Moving on, friendships. Friendships are so, so important. It's having those people that you work with, that you can laugh with, that you can joke with, that you can be honest and vulnerable with. And as for the leaders that are here listening, is ensuring that you're creating a culture to foster healthy friendships, because you want people to stay, of course, for you as a leader, but you also want people to stay and be connected and be motivated because of the team. All right, friendships are really, really key. Sometimes when we're in a really big organization, we don't have influence over the entire culture of, I don't know, Hilton Hotels, or the entire culture of Wyndham, right? What we do have as a leader is we have influence over our team, over our microculture, okay? And taking happiness really seriously as a leader and thinking about, how can I create a microculture for everyone that I influence? And what can I do so that while they're working, they feel excited, they feel motivated, right? And then the last one is knowing those happiness traps, right? So when you are starting to feel really overwhelmed, maybe you're starting to feel really stressed, and you need to remind yourself, okay, it's time to take a break. It's time to take a day off. If there's someone, you know, around you that's always sort of negative, making sure, okay, I'm not going to give tons of energy to this person, right? Being aware of what's taking away your happiness while you're working, and as much as possible, influencing your environment and creating boundaries so that you can stay as happy as possible while you are working, okay? So the next topic that we are going to dive into, and this is one that, again, I'm very, very, very passionate about it, as I led teams for 14 years. And we know we spend so much time while we are working, okay? And leaders have a tremendous impact on people, for the positive and for the negative. Happiness at work is not about the annual survey, or maybe a quarterly survey that goes out where you rate, okay, yes, I have the tools to do my job. My boss is kind. You know, I have all the resources. I would recommend someone to come and work at, you know, this company. That's all about your satisfaction. That's sort of at any given point in time, you reflect and say, yeah, I'm pretty satisfied here, or I'm really satisfied here. All right, that's what those surveys, and it's really, really important. What I'm going to teach you here is about the emotions that people have while they're working, whether they're in a hotel, whether they're working in the, you know, working from home. Doesn't matter what environment you're in. What I'm teaching you as leaders is what you can do so that while people are working, they feel excited, they feel joyful, they feel calm, they feel energized, okay? The emotions they feel every single day. It's the daily. And when people are happy while working, they're more engaged in their work. They're more productive. They are better at being a team member. They're more creative. You will think of new ideas. For anyone in sales, you will sell more. Sean Acor from Harvard has proven that a salesperson who is in a positive mindset versus a salesperson who's neutral or feeling negative can sell up to 37% more. It directly impacts the business results. It directly impacts the ROI. And sometimes people say, happiness, that doesn't belong at work. And I say, it absolutely does. It's the most important thing. So there are so many ways that it can positively impact while working. And so, as I told you, I went and spent a week in Copenhagen and got certified as a Chief Happiness Officer, and spent an entire week diving into what leaders can do to create a happy workforce. And it's also about, how do you create a culture? How do you create an environment where the employees are making each other happy? It's not just about the leader coming in every day and saying, the cheerleader, okay, everyone, let's get happy today. Here's this and this. It's about setting up a culture where everyone is really elevating each other. And yes, you will see the business results. So the first pillar that I want to dive into is results. Okay. So this is for leaders, making sure that everyone has the resources that they need to do their job. It's really hard to be happy if you don't have the resources. And don't assume, you can go up to your entire team, you can go to your organization. Do you have the resources? What resources do you need? The next one is autonomy. It is very, very difficult to be happy while working if you're being micromanaged. It is really, really difficult to feel engaged if the person that is leading you makes you feel like you're not trusted, or maybe you can't do that work on your own. As a leader, you've brought on these people into your organization. You need to give them the space. You need to give them clear direction. And of course, ongoing communication, but give them autonomy. It doesn't have to be your way, right? They have amazing ways, and they'll show you on how to get from point A to point B. Give people autonomy. They love it. Progress in meaningful work. So at the top of organizations, maybe executives, managers, even supervisors, it's usually pretty clear why their work matters, right? Like, so you're a regional director of HR, you're a chief people officer, you're in you're a leader in finance, okay, if I didn't show up tomorrow, what would be the ripple effect? When you get farther down into the organization, for example, let's say there's a steward, right? And he or she might think, okay, I come to work, I clock in and I do my work. They're not necessarily thinking why their work matters. Well, what would happen if that steward didn't show up? So, for example, the food and beverage manager needs to say to that person, oh my goodness, your work matters so much. You come here and you make sure that after these events, that everything is sparkling. You make sure that there's connection between the food and beverage operations to the kitchen. If you didn't show up, there would be a waterfall of effects. Your work matters so much. To the hostess who seats people, your work matters so much. You are actually maybe the first person that our guests see when they come down in the hotel. And you're greeting them with a smile and welcoming them. You might be the way that they start their day. Your work matters so much. Thank you for coming to work. We as leaders need to make sure that we are communicating why work matters. Feedback. So unfortunately, human beings are uncomfortable with giving feedback, both feedback for improvement and positive feedback. Yet people want feedback, want consistent feedback. And so whenever I'm with leadership groups, I say, if this is an area where you are not consistent in, and consistent, I mean daily, weekly, acknowledging, noticing, seeing those micro steps that your people are doing to get you towards a big goal, you need to put a reminder in your calendar. People need to see, oh yes, my boss notices. And it's the small accomplishments, and it needs to be ongoing. And that is going to make them feel happy. That's going to give them motivation. You absolutely also need to coach for improvement, with it immediately. But think of specific things that your team is doing and just make sure you're noticing all the time. And that is going to give them the fire in the belly that you want as a leader. Let's move over to the next pillar, which is relationships. So this is having people feel like they belong on your team, like they belong in your organization, right? They don't belong because they are a night auditor. They belong because they are Suzanne and because they're a human being, right? They belong. Does the team make everyone feel like they really, really belong there? Conflict resolution. So this is where a lot of leaders go astray. And as we need to make sure that we are trained, and if this is an area where you're thinking, I don't know if I'm necessarily handling conflict resolution, then get that training. Ask your leader, can I take a class? Can we do a simulation? When there's always conflict, we're human beings, right? Conflict's going to happen between different personalities, different departments, etc. The leader needs to make sure that conflict is resolved in a healthy, productive way, because if it's not, it's going to make people really, really unhappy. Okay. And in Scandinavia, there's a lot of training on conflict resolution. Team building. So some people love, right now there's a lot of like Zoom virtual happy hours. There could be things that happen on property. You need to find out from your team, how do you want to spend time together? But as a leader, you need to make sure, I always ran sales teams, and we would go bowling, we would do drum circles, we would go to stand-up comedy shows, we would go and help and do charity work to just get people spending time together. And now a lot of it is virtual, but get people spending time together, not talking about work. Time together so that you can start to gel and become stronger as human beings and connected, right? And then you as the leader are also connecting with them, and so that they get to know you a little bit more, and just have some fun. It's really, really important. And then last, the daily relationships really is the foundation is in your daily communication, in your emails, in your meetings. Is making sure that you are being positive and lifting people up. And of course, not pretending that everything is great, but making sure that you're recognizing them, making sure that you're staying connecting with them and appreciating their work. And there might be some people who are awesome on your team and you can just let them go. You want to make sure that they know that you notice them, you see all their amazing work. All right. Hopefully you got some ideas for yourself, and there's a lot of leaders on the call of thinking about an environment that you're in right now, how to, yes, take care of yourself, and then also think about how people are feeling daily, the day in, day out. Nothing to do with how much money they're paid or their title. It's really about, the emotions that people feel while working. So in closing, I want to let you know that there's a lot of wonderful resources available, and I'll share some with HLA, so you'll be receiving some after if you're interested in learning more about the science of happiness and continuing for yourself and maybe for your team as well. I do have a mini happiness class on my website. So if you go to arriveathappy.com, there's a free class that you can take there. It's very short, but that will give you some more tools such as the upside of stress and so on. So definitely check that out. And if you want to connect on LinkedIn, I'd be happy to connect with all of you. There was a story that one woman said on the breakout that she said, before COVID, we used to all sit together at lunch. We used to, sit and talk and catch up. And for sure, that's a place where belonging and human connection happens in hotels, is in the cafeteria. And she said, and we can't do that now. Everyone's, separated at the tables. She said, but there's a park across from our hotel, and because of, different things, there's some garbage in the park, there's some trash, even masks, things around. And I think what I would like to do is I would like to get all of the people who are working, and I'm also going to invite the people who are not working, and we're going to clean up the park together. And I thought, oh, what an amazing idea. And it's going to increase their happiness twofold. One, because they're going to be all together outside, and two, because when we're giving, when we're helping other people, helping the earth, it increases our happiness as well, right? The Dalai Lama says happiness comes from helping others. So such a great example. We will have time for Q&A, and I just want to remind you with what I said when I opened up this workshop, is that you have a lot of influence over your well-being and over your happiness. And I think you'd agree that the world needs this now more than ever. And when you increase your well-being, you inspire and motivate those around you to do the same. There's a ripple effect. So whether it's on social media or whether it's in person, share the good that's happening in the world, because there's a lot of it. And then we will open for questions.
Well, thank you so much, Tia. This has been absolutely incredible. I've learned so much. I suspect everybody else has as well. Arbijlad, I hope I pronounced it right. I even wrote it down phonetically. This today is an example of just a slice of great, just joy and happiness in my workday. So I hope it's the same for everyone. So I have a few questions I want to ask. So first I want to start with, what do you do when you have negative people in your life, whether it's related to work or personal?
I get asked this question a lot because there are always, usually there are some negative people, whether it be your sibling, whether it be someone at work. And so the first is, I would say, number one, come from a place of compassion. Is when someone is feeling negative and is being challenged, is to know that and to remind yourself that they're probably going through something, or more likely many different things, right? So number one is compassion. Always come to the table with compassion. And the second, I would say, is on empathy and understanding of, instead of making assumptions on why they're negative and, oh, they're just, bringing this to the team, of spending time saying, hey, I notice you seem a little down or a little challenged or a little frustrated. Do you want to talk about it? And just kind of show up for that person. And sometimes there are people where you're not going to be able to change them, or maybe even if you do share resources and attention to give them, that they sort of are choosing to stay there. Maybe for whatever's going on in their life, they're there. They're feeling really, really negative. Is the last part, which is really important, is on boundaries, right? I sometimes say, sometimes you got to put on the invisible shield and not let it come in, because emotions are contagious. And through social media, it's just the same. Emotions, whatever's happening, is contagious. So you need to have, sort of prepare yourself of, okay, I'm going to go spend an hour with this person. I'm going to go spend Thanksgiving with this person. I'm going to put up my shield and not, be intentional of not letting it come in.
I love that. I'm a student of the 4 agreements, and one of them is never make assumptions. So I love how you shared that at the beginning, is, always inquiring and sharing. How somebody's showing up to you doesn't necessarily mean that that's how they intend to show up. So I love that, compassion, empathy, and understanding. Next question, what do you recommend to do when you wake up in a bad mood and need to shake it off and start the day with a positive perspective?
So of course, sometimes you're going to wake up, and I mean, there's no such thing of being happy all the time. It's not, that would be, it's not being possible. You have good days and bad days, and good weeks and bad weeks. So on those days when you wake up and you're like, oh, I have this to-do list, I have that, all of those thoughts that are happening in our mind, right? Thousands of thoughts every single day, is to use your physical body to positively affect your mind. The mind-body connection, it's always connected. So I would wake up and think about, you can either write it down or just think about, okay, today I'm grateful for, I'm healthy, I'm alive. It could be as simple as that. I'm healthy, I'm alive. Okay, I'm grateful for that. You can then use a little bit of movement. It doesn't have to be this, big, long workout, but even if you just stretch, if you do, I do 7-minute workouts because I'm a very busy working mom, probably like a lot of you, right? So just quick movements because when you move your body, your brain is going to literally think, wait, is she happy? Is she feeling good? Okay. Also deep breathing, whether you have a formal meditation practice and you use an app, or you just sit and just calm yourself with breath. I would have, some, if you can, some good food, because again, what you're doing with your physical body is going to affect your mind. And if you can also, here's another one, is think about some way that you can laugh, right? Whether you laugh at yourself, whether you watch a funny YouTube video. I'm a huge fan of SNL, like just a quick SNL clip. Okay, you know what? I'm going to turn this day around, right? So just a few of those activities, and also just accept, okay, today might not be the most perfect day, but I'm going to do the best I can.
I love it. So for everyone listening, we did not rehearse this, but this is funny. In putting the questions down, I actually wrote down gratitude exercise and get moving. So it's funny you said that, because that's exactly what I do. So it makes so much sense. And when it comes to laughing, I thought back to just in the last week and a half or so, I came across some hilarious little videos that, for whatever reason, every time I watch them, gives me a belly giggle that I can't actually stop.
Love
Because it keeps kind of replaying in my mind, and it does wonders for just, alleviating, the stress and any tension.
Yeah.
So I have my thoughts on this as well, but I want to know yours. What is the difference between positivity and optimism?
Yes. So positivity is about where you focus. Okay. So do you spend your time focusing on the good? Do you spend your time focusing on the negative? Positivity is about a perspective. And let me give you an example. There could be a man who loses his job and thinks, oh my goodness, my life is over. I am never going to get as good of a job again. I have obviously failed at a lot of different ways. I'm not successful. The next year is going to be horrible. Man number two loses his job, the exact same job in a different part of the country. And this person, because he chooses to focus on the good, he chooses to have a positive perspective, says, wow, I just lost my job. Maybe this is the time in my life where I am actually going to go do the dream thing that I've always wanted to do, but I've been afraid of. Maybe this is a sign that I'm going to learn and grow and find mentors. And in my next job, I'm going to be even more successful. Okay. So it's not about the events. It's about where you focus. It's about your perspective. That's positivity. Optimism is about what you believe about your future. Okay. So you might be going through, I don't know, a huge global pandemic, yet you're optimistic about 2021. You're optimistic about 2022. You're optimistic about what this has done for you and your family. You're optimistic about how this has made your company more creative, more innovative. And for all of those people that said, we can never work from home, it will never happen. We're like, oh, actually people can work from home. Who knew? So that's the difference between optimism and positivity.
I love it. It reminds me of, I think it's Winston Churchill who said, never let a crisis go to waste. So there's always some kind of opportunity out of it. So love that. So let's see, I have one last question for you. What is your advice relative to staying positive when we're bombarded with negative news?
Yes. So I've been asked this so often over the past 6 months. So know that the news is a for-profit. All of the news, right, is a for-profit, and they know what sells. Our brains have negativity biases. We're drawn because of our fight or flight, the way human beings developed. And we need to be very, very conscious and very intentional of what we consume and how we consume it. So you could have the TV on all day long. That would not serve you, right? As I mentioned. So you want to be informed as business people. You need to be aware of what's going on, and there might be certain times where you say, I'm going to read the news from 8 to 8:30. I'm going to read the news from noon to 12:30. I'm going to look at it again from 6 to 6:30 and not have a constant, right? Also know that the news is purposefully not telling us the good that's happening in the world. And there is incredible good happening in the world. CNN has a newsletter that you can receive every single Sunday called The Good Stuff. And it's literally the good stuff. You can follow, positivenews.org. You can bring in positive, great things that are going on in the country, in the world, human beings, environmentally, etc., so that you're not just taking in what CNN and Fox and etc. are telling you, right? That's just one side of the story. And maybe, in the future, there can be actually, be a live stream, constant. So that's my advice. Make sure it doesn't overtake your life, and remind yourself, this is just the negative news. The news we see on TV is just the negative news.
So thank you. And I think that it's fantastic. I have a suggestion that we should have you and John Krasinski co-anchor a, only good news.
That would be my dream. Yeah. Let's make it happen.
You heard it here first. Great. Well, Tia, thank you so much. Talking about meaningful work, what you have shared with us today has been so meaningful. I'm looking at the chat string as we go, and there are so many comments to the same. So thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Great. And I want to also thank our sponsors. I think we have them coming up on the screen now. Without our amazing sponsors, we wouldn't be able to make Forward Thinking and our Forward program possible. So we want to take a moment to express our appreciation to them. I also want to remind everyone to register for Forward 2021, May 11th and 12th at the Hilton Chicago. We very much look forward to seeing everyone in person. So please go ahead and register for that now. And also pay attention to your emails. We will be sending out a post-event survey. It will only take a few minutes to complete this. It's really important for us to get your feedback. Tia talked about feedback today. Feedback is a gift. We want to know what you loved about this session, previous sessions, and what you'd like to see going forward, and any suggestions you have for us. And then also look forward to emails about future forward-thinking events that we'll continue to have virtually as we are now. So with that, I want to wish everyone a wonderful rest of your Tuesday and week. Happy October.